get into it, I really want to thank everybody who's been watching my videos, because the amount of positive reactions that I've gotten has been insane. I actually made a separate Instagram for my YouTube stuff so I don't bother my family and friends, and most of them, or a lot of them, ended up following me on my second Instagram, so that's really cool, and the support has been awesome. I'm getting views 10 times what I expected to get, honestly. This is going to be my first video with the new GoPro, so hopefully I can, from here on out, begin making better quality videos rather than just having to deal with 4 different cameras and 4 different softwares and all this different stuff that I've been doing. And from here on out, I should be able to consistently grow into better production value, even on something like a DIY. But I really appreciate all the support so far. It's been insane, the amount of views and positive comments that people have been leaving, so I really appreciate it. So first off, this is not something that I am some type of expert at. This is my first time ever doing it. This is something that I've read off of the GX470 Facebook group as basically a write-up on there, but the instructions aren't very clear. So after some Googling, I figured I'd make a video to help anybody else that's kind of in my position as well. But this is my first time doing it. Mistakes may be made. The good thing about YouTube is that if you make a mistake, 500 people are going to go in the comments and tell you how wrong you are. So at least you can learn, and you can learn quickly. To my knowledge, the transmission, transfer case, and front diff have an external breather that's routed up into the engine bay, perhaps. But from what I read, that's not really an issue on these vehicles, but the rear just has a little breather that sticks out of the top of the axle housing. And I guess if you drive through a lot of water, or even just getting it covered in sand, I guess the breather can get sand in it and clog, which will then create pressure in the housing once the fluid heats up and starts to expand, and it'll eventually cause your axle seals to fail. Or you could get water in it if you really submerge this thing, and water mixed with gear oil, water doesn't lube anything. So relocating the diff breather is something that people recommend. This is a differential vent from Dorman. It's just like a generic thing I got from Advance, but I found it on Amazon as well, and that's the part number. This is an OEM union. There's the part number on that. So this part will thread into the axle housing. You'll take your tube, 1/4 inch inner diameter, run it to the vent. So I will link all of these products in the description, so that way you can go grab them if you want to do this job yourself. They are all available on Amazon, and if I remember correctly, they're all on Prime, and this stuff is literally like 14 bucks for everything. So let's get into it. It looks like you could reach it with your spare on. The breather is right up there, but I'm gonna go ahead and remove my spare, both for video purposes and for arm length movement purposes. Just in case there's somebody who has not removed their spare, you basically come in your little door for OEM tools. You build yourself a stick out of all these different things. They just snap together, and they have a little screw piece that you can just tighten on so they don't come apart. Then you pop this cover off, and you're definitely not gonna be able to see it here, but you basically shove this thing in there, and there's a channel that goes all the way back, and it kind of locks in. You'll feel it lock in, and then obviously you just turn it lefty loosey, and the tire starts to come down. Here's an underside look of the tire removal tool. It just comes in, there's this little channel right here, and it funnels your tool right into where it needs to go to lower the spare tire holder. This is the factory diff breather. The diff breather is going to be a 14, and I've got a box wrench on it, and this vehicle has 295,000 miles on it, and you just saw how tight it was. I think it's fair to say that this thing probably isn't doing very much for me in terms of keeping my differential ventilated. Alright, so the new piece will thread in just like that. But before I do that, I'm going to clean it up. I just wanted to get this in a little bit. That way I don't get any junk into my diff if possible. The new one is a 12 millimeter. Alright, so you'll see I switched over to a ratchet with a deep well, 12 millimeter on it. That little tiny wrench was tearing up my hands in this cold weather. But this is probably the world's worst DIY because I don't have a torque spec for that. But the other one came off with literally no force, so it doesn't have to be He-Man tight. So this is the breather vent. Good news is I've got my space heater out here working pretty hard, so I was just able to heat up the tube a little bit, and then you could put a little dab of soap or something there. I was thinking that this would need a hose clamp, but there's no way that once I get this in that it'll ever come out. And there we go. Took a little bit of forcing, a little bit of elbow grease, but it's in there. So I'm gonna heat the other side of the hose up and then put a little bit of soap on it before I lay down on the ground to do the other side. So I got the tube warmed up a little bit, and I got a little bit of car wash soap on the end of it. Let's see how much of a pain this is to get it on. All right, there we go. It wasn't too bad. On the group, a lot of people run their breather, I'm guessing up to the frame, and then this is the fuel line that takes the fuel to the tank from the gas door. And I guess they run it up this, and then it goes up into the body right there, and zip tie it to the hose there. I don't really want to do that because I don't know, I just have big hands, and it's not very, it doesn't look very easy, honestly. That's really why I don't want to do it. So what I think I'm going to do is run it up to the frame, run it along the frame, and then up through this crack, which will put it up basically in the, you can see my hands up there. It'll put it up in the back door jam, basically. But it'll still be outside the weather strip, so you'll never smell gear oil inside the vehicle. I'm gonna run it up in front of this frame rail, over it, just to aid in holding it up, under that, and then over this one. And under this right here. I just don't want to cross anything if I don't have to. I'm up here near the left taillight. I just pulled the weather strip off just so you could see this little plastic piece. I think it should just pry right up. Yeah. So I think I'm going to trim right about here, just for that tube to come through, and then it should run right up into here. I honestly don't think this plastic is really hard enough to cut the line that I'm using. but it will definitely make it easier getting it up into here. And I just want to create as little bind as possible because this thing has to be able to flex with the axle, which I'm going to test here in a minute. You saw where I came across this, and I'm going to go behind this, which is my trailer hitch wiring harness, which is still not done, and then it went up my little slit right there, and then I'm basically just going to pull it tight as I can, and then I'll come back down here and pull a little bit of slack back so that way it has room to flex with the axle. But I think because it's basically, I mean, it's just off center of the axle, it's not going to droop tremendously as if it were on the edge. But it's coming up right here. I'm just going to trim this little piece of plastic a little bit. It's not beautiful, but it works. Perfect. No issues at all. The only thing I might do, I'm gonna leave it like this for now because I don't really think it's going anywhere, especially when the door is closed. But I may end up putting a piece of double-sided tape like right here just so that it doesn't move around. But I think that's gonna do it for me. And so you can see this diff breather is now relocated up to here. I am 6'3", so this would be 3.5, 4 feet. If I'm in water this deep, we have bigger problems than my diff breather. So I've been thinking about ways to get the rear axle to flex, and I don't think my jack goes high enough. But I live out here in the middle of nowhere where they have these ditches in front of our house. So you know what? Never mind. I'm just gonna show you. Job if you weren't making a video doing it, but it came out well. Everything is complete, and yeah, let me know if this helped you, because online the instructions aren't very clear. I did my best to be clear and concise as possible. I know I get long-winded at times, but I really appreciate you watching, and yeah, keep up the good support, and I'll try to make more cool videos soon. Thank you.